All right, folks, we're back. Sorry, just showing the bracket screen. I have so many freaking subscribers and messages I got to shout out. We actually got so much hype during that last game that, like, we fell behind a whole page on Twitch alerts. So I'm going to try and do this. We do have the lobbies going up, though, so I don't want to take too long with it. We may cut it off and do more catch-up later, but thank you very much, Hail for the 33-month resub, saying, let's ask the stream, are vampires unable to cross running water as a common part of the mythos? I want to say no. Vampires for me is like stake through the heart, no sun, can't walk into a house, drinks blood. I don't know anything about running water or crossing water.
Yeah.
Then we Split Black Ribbon, brand new sub with a Prime sub. Tadigan with brand new sub as well, coming through Prime. Thank you guys both. Tempo, I'm gonna fail this, but brother, I'm gonna try this just for you, man. Tempo for 49 months comes back to say, the thing goes, where am I and who are all these people? Thank you very much, Tempo, long time support the channel. Katsumisuno and Morin the Barfly, both brand new subs coming in back to back. Then KGR27 threw $2 our way to say, I love you guys. These viewers will learn you're the best. Heart you both. Hell yeah, we're the best. Heck to the yeah. You can probably go, by the way. I'll just keep reading these out while the game starts. Diesel Max Power then comes in with 1,000 generous bits to claim title of Bit Boss. Says, what a series. Ting Jesse, another season, please. Hopefully, guys, all we got to do is get a couple signups, and it's guaranteed to happen. Mad Hatter 1212, thank you for the 18-month resub. Goddess Haruhi for 12, that's 1 year. Welcome to the Partoof Club. Bob King of 12 versus brand new Prime sub. Although I feel like you've been here before, man. That name's familiar. Thank you kindly. Duminge rocking the 30-month on our mod sub train, saying, why aren't you shouting me out, Rifkin? Oh, crap, I ruined it. And Elder Lamb 100 bits, Mad Dog 69 100 bits, and I think we're caught up. So thank you guys all for your support one way or the other, but make sure to support the tournament by checking out the sponsors. Again, that's over on bttv.ting.com. Love you all. Let's get into this fresh best of 5. Another PvZ served up. Spawning here in the bottom right, we got Dead Pixels, Blue, Zerg Player Impact.
In the top left, as the red Protoss, it is a liquid.
Okay, so I didn't actually see during vetoes. Was there server drama with these two, or are they both content with West? What was the dealio?
Oh no, it's gonna be on Central. The other possibility was swapping between servers, but they didn't want that.
Really, Central over West? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, MaNa says West is pretty bad for him, which would make sense.
I guess, yeah. Again, for those who don't know why we do it this way to dance around the servers, there's no perfect way to do cross-server, but there is either like something where you alternate back and forth and both players can accept, or you make both parties equally miserable by picking a server in between, so they both lag.
Yeah, it's especially terrible for Europe and Korea. We had, you know, the past 2 games were America and Europe and America and both East Coasters actually. And Korea, and it's not as bad to swap those servers. In fact, Scarlet got like really good end of that trade versus DNS, but the worst is Korea and Europe for sure. They never play each other's servers, not even like for a couple of games of fun, unless they're forced to, like right now. US Central.
US Central. Well, we've seen a variety of play between the series of Neeb and Solar, Scarlet DNS. I think, again, I want to make it clear, guys, I favor Impact because he's been putting on a good showing. He's Korean. There's a lot of pluses here. But MaNa has usually been one of those guys who is good with the patches. I wouldn't say he's the most innovative and creative Protoss ever, but he does adapt to the new patches pretty well when we get to see him. And there's a reason maybe my brain thought he was consistently further than he was in these tournaments, and it's because he does still play really well.
Yeah. Well, when you brought that up, I wasn't like, time to prove Rifkin wrong and like, you know, doing soap thing with my hands. Like, I was just like, that doesn't sound right in my opinion, because for me, MaNa's always been consistently good. Like, he just has spurts of being awesome day to day, but not month to month type of thing.
You know what MaNa is actually very consistent at?
What?
Looking good while dying.
Yeah, that's...
I can actually say I can't think of another Protoss player who makes games look doable when they're certainly dead.
Yeah, that is a very good point. He always like really shines with his micro decision making when he's already messed up in a big way once, which is quite unfortunate. We'll see how he adapts to the new meta, well, it's not really new meta, just the new buildings here, because again, the best way to seemingly play against Zerg is still doing old-fashioned builds like Resident Glaive openers.
Well, the Zerg's gonna get on top of the Adept and shoot this down. No shield batteries to protect this gal.
Nope. Sorry. Impact is following up with a very quick Roach Warren. Now, this might be because he saw the builds and is just getting that, like, you know, layer of protection that just is so good in the early game. Roach is just good units in the early game. It also might be to follow up what he might deem as a weakness here already. But he's droning, so I think it's just defensive. Oh, he supply blocked. Wow, Impact. Wow.
These overlords are really far away too.
Yeah. I pointed out because it was a severe supply block.
Oh yeah, he's sitting there banking a ton of money. That's the hope casters didn't notice that kind of supply block.
Yeah. Okay, so he finally beats it, gets past it, and roaches are on the way. The thing is, you don't really need roaches against an adept attack, because, you know, more likely I would say they don't even use it. They shade in, see that there's 20 lings, and go, nah, not today. But it is a much more dependable unit, and MaNa's following up very quickly with the Templar Archives.
A small point about Impact, for those who don't know, he was playing an OGN League or a Freaky League, or I can't remember what it was, but he was playing something before this and had to rush back home to play this. That's why his match, which was originally scheduled first, got pushed to be scheduled third. So I'm not sure if he's maybe flustered or tired. It could be a combination of the two. It might explain some of that supply block problem, because that's not a lag-related issue, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's 3 a.m. in Korea, and if he's already been working and tired and taking the train, barely missing it type of thing, he might be a little bit flustered. That is actually so impactful.
Name of the movie!
That I might be giving MaNa the victory now over Impact, but we'll see actually in this first game if he makes any of those that can only be explained because he's tired moves.
Yeah, I think we're judging a lot based off of one supply block. Granted, it was a bad one, but we'll see how he reacts to things. He's already looking pretty quick. I love the fact that he's dropping creep with the overlords, because he doesn't want to spend energy on creep tumors, saving up for transfuses, larva injects, you name it. So this is kind of a clever way to bridge the gap here, is there's quite a bit of distance between the main and the natural.
I really wonder what MaNa's doing here. So he added on this Templar Archives really quickly, still building Immortals, is going to go for a third base. The order of structures here is what's got me a little confused. Huh.
Oh, it's just barely not going to see that warp prism as it heads back towards the main. Roaches are plentiful enough, though. I don't think this should be too much of a problem. He doesn't have the anti-air to nerf or nuke down the warp prism, excuse me. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Nerf the warp prism. 6 range pickup.
Gonna save this third base, but I'm still looking at MaNa, wondering how he's planning to play this EVP out. So the Templar Archive is not being used, right? So that's what, like, it tells me that maybe wasn't the best move. Because if it's used, you see, like, oh, okay, he obviously wanted Archons. That makes a lot of sense. He wants Fast Storm, makes a lot of sense. But regardless of that, I do really like the second Robo. I think that, especially with Lurkers being more popular, Immortal-based compositions are going to be coming back in a big way. But it seems like it's going to be too late. Well, wait, those forces are pretty good.
Corsair Balls doesn't really land. Lings managed to sneak in over here, but they're going to be cleaned up by the Adepts too. A little bit of chaos on the other side of the field with Adepts transferring around. 5 drones die. This ends up being a really awkward attack for Impact.
Yeah, that's why I was like, well, actually, because Impact had to withdraw all of his Lings that are supposed to be reinforcing that push to deal with these Adepts. That was a really nice move. And then MaNa, with those force fields, really made that look like an easy hold. Barely saves the Warp Prism. And Impact has to expand. He has to macro a little bit as this timing was thrown off significantly.
You'll see that Warp Prism too as the attack commences on the front lines. There's a lot of Immortals. This kind of dangerous. Oh, he's trying to predict the Warp Prism path. That's funny. But yeah, there's a lot of immortals, so these roaches are in grave danger. But what he's doing to follow this up is swarm hosts. This is kind of cool.
Oh, alrighty then. So I brought up immortal compositions, how I liked it. It's coming back. Roach Ravager all lanes seem to be coming back, as well as lurkers. So immortals seem like A+ units against all of that. They're not really A+ units against locusts. You want splash, or just a lot of units in general dealing a lot of DPS. This might be a reaction to what Impact saw coming out from MaNa.
Warp Prism's still not going to get caught. No auto attacks, but the Observer does see the swarm hosts. I guess we haven't seen much of this to talk about it, but Observers and Overseers have surveillance mode, which we're trying to make everyone say is siege mode because it sounds cooler. But they get to become stationary, they get a larger vision radius. I mean, you can see he sees everything that's going out of this base.
Yeah. And he saw the swarm host, right? So the robotics bay, I do believe, is going to be for Colossus. If this just was Roach Hydra or Lane Baneling Roach, I think it might have even been Disruptors, but Colossus would have done well against both of them, but especially against Locusts. And then I'll give him a fine composition if he can just hold on until then, and it seems like he will. There's a bit of damage going down on the worker lines as Roach is kind of squeezed in here, but it's not game ending.
Also, just a note, I was taking a look at the income right before the attack hit. Impact has been doing phenomenal for the last 5 minutes. MaNa on 3 bases, losing probes like this wasn't even like matching the economy. The fact that he loses any 12 is not that much objectively, but 12 in this case is a lot.
I really... Okay, the attack's going down, so I wonder about this later. They'll come in, and they look quite fearsome. That's a lot not going to be able to be burst down.
Shield battery's going to help a little, but as we noted from the previous series with Scarlet, Locusts actually have the damage out DPS the shield battery attack, or heal.
Colossus only just now pop out. Pretty late to the party. They could have been very helpful against the Locusts.
Oh, and these aren't Zealots, these are Adepts. This might kill a lot of drones, which would be cool, but it's not going to get base snipes. So MaNa's not going to be able to repay the damage of that third going down.
No, that's really painful. The timing's just a little bit off. And distracted, of course, by the harassment that Impact threw into his main and natural. He's going to try and still play out this game. Again, where MaNa plays best is when he's already dying. We'll see.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a joke, and I'm not trying to be too silly with it. I'm serious. It's games where MaNa is losing that MaNa actually plays out of his mind. It's kind of like one of those old school like berserking talents, right? The more damage you take, the more damage you do. That's kind of MaNa in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, the Locust way of being wasted here, he could try pushing in again, and he'll be timing out with the Extended Thermal Lance. Yeah, saves those Immortals.
But Corruptors are on deck, so these Colossus won't remain a problem for very long. But Corruptors, they're kind of like icing on the cake. They're not a necessity. This Ligma by, shutting down the base from going down again. MaNa is not going to get a third base, means he has to win with this attack. He's not going to have much follow-up if he has no money.
He knows the Swarm Hosts probably have Locust again, and while his Colossus are finally here helping on the front lines, combo to the Roaches and Ravagers, I think it's just going to be too big of an army for MaNa to take on, so he's just teeter-tottering, not committing, but also, as I said, not able to play a macro game with his third base being denied.
I like this. MaNa's like an anime character. Yeah, but he's not the main character is the problem, guys.
Okay, the Locusts took a detour and lost most of their time going to the north instead of the east.
Maybe he's the main character.
Maybe.
I mean, it's still, look, it's like max supply to like 124 supply. I'm not going to try and make it look like MaNa's going to win this game, but while Locusts are in cooldown, it's the best chance for him to do some very serious damage. But Locusts are coming off cooldown here in about 5 seconds.
A lot of the Ravager eggs were stalling out the army of Impact. He's already in a bad position. The Locusts are going to be spawned here. He's going to have to run away again. But maybe running away works okay.
I'm not a big fan of the way Impact's playing this. I think he's getting a little bit too desperate. I mean, drones were pulled into this.
Okay. That's going to be it. He's caught. Too much damage.
Yeah, the Immortal's going down actually opens way for the Roaches to get on top of the Colossus now, too. With no third base, sadly, MaNa will probably die out.
Yeah. He finally has one finishing up to the left side, but it's going to die.
We did get to see a little bit of effect there, by the way. Stalkers dealing with Corruptors better than they ever have in the past. That was kind of neat to see. But GG's get called, and Impact will take game number 1.
So we talked about Impact being like tired or, flustered a little bit. Maybe MaNa needs to get warmed up too. That Templar Archives just ended up being a huge question mark on his build, and it sounds like such a small thing to pay attention to, but when it was so early and it's never used, that has a significant, like, actually I don't remember how much it costs, like 150, 100, something like that. Anyways, it's significant when you're only on 2 bases, and he never ever used it. He never warped in a High Templar. It was so weird.
Well, I guess people asking about results here, so if you missed them, just while we wait for the next game to go up, here is the bracket so far. I could probably just update this while we're here too, because of course Impact now is up 1-0. So shout out to Jesse for his super sick artistic skills making the playoffs bracket. Probably gonna fix this up a little bit later, but this works for what we need today. So thank you, Jesse, for making this.
Yeah.
Also, again, the call out, guys. Whether it's a Twitch Prime thing or not, I'm not asking for subs and money and bits. I'm asking for your follows. They're free, and we're getting close, getting real close. I'm starting to think with the momentum slowing down a bit, we might not hit 100,000 today, but we are at 99,255 followers. We're at like 500 gained for the stream so far. This is so sick. Again, with 8,000 people tuning in, I'm hoping some of you got the goodwill to do it, but we're getting to Blackpink. It's a hype intro with a bit of K-pop. See you guys in game.
Click, clack, bada bing, bada boom. 문을 박 차면 모든 날 바라본 그지 애써 노력안 해도 모든 남자들의 고피가 팡팡팡 팡팡 바라바라 팡팡팡 지금 날 위해 축배를 짠짠짠 Hands up 내 손에 바라 follow 해니 네가 말로만 듣던 게가 나야 Blackpink in your area Boom baya
Well, welcome back. Game number 2 in the Ting Open. This is still the round of 8. I want to quickly mention, because someone did ask this in chat, there are no semifinal matches played out today. This coming Saturday will be the semifinals, and this coming Sunday will be the grand finals. So that should hopefully correct you. But if you guys want to see our events list, they're on Twitch. Twitch.tv/BaseTradeTV/events. You can see when all the things we're casting are. It's always updated month by month, so you can see the full month schedule. I should note publicly, I'll be updating this after the cast is done. But Corsair Cups for this week have officially been moved, not canceled, but we're not doing them this week anymore. And I'll get a public statement out about that later. But aside from those 2 things, the rest of the schedule is pretty set. So you can see the Ting finals and otherwise. That being said, in the bottom left, he's up 1 game playing for Dead Pixels. It's Impact.
In the top right, as the red Protoss, it is Liquid MaNa.
People ask, is BaseTradeTV popular now? No, it's all fake.
What is popular to you?
Well, so this is kind of cool, right? Like, we get 10,000 viewers, but Rifkin's still unpopular. But what's cool about this is, first off, to explain, we are on the front page of Twitch. Twitch has been giving us some serious love this month, and I feel like we've been utilizing it well. This is the second time today we've hit 10K viewers. Granted, it's fallen down to 8.4, 9K floating around that region. That's fine. But what was kind of cool to see was we did the Corsair Cup this week. We did not have any front page time, and we still pulled in like 3,000, almost like 3.5 thousand viewers for that. So it's feeling good seeing those numbers go up, man. And it's StarCraft 2, one of the older games. People like to make the dead game meme. People still watch this game. And the way I look at it, you got big badasses like Total Biscuit. They rock it with Shoutcraft every month. They bring in the viewers. We might not be able to bring in the viewers, but we seem to be able to keep the viewers. And I'm damn proud of that.
Yeah. Some good times. You know, MaNa, bit of a weird build. Maybe he noticed the mistake too late and didn't want to use it, or maybe his plans just changed entirely. But it was an odd start for him. It was an odd start for Impact. But when all is said and done, MaNa's timings in those Colossus, I think, were really helped kill him. The Swarm hosts were seen, but, you know, that's when he started the robotics bay. It was pretty late.
I'm actually wondering how much MaNa's willing to change things up, by the way, because I just want to note, we make these jokes about MaNa dying gloriously, but he always does it the same way, and I don't feel like he has a huge variety of builds. Like, you go into a game with Gumiho or TY, you know they've got like 9 different proxies up their sleeve, along with macro play, along with surprise mech play, But I feel like MaNa doesn't have those options to him.
MaNa certainly has his all-ins, and that's even what I was like wondering if he was going to do when he slapped that down onto base and Simpler Archives, but then he didn't. He can be aggressive. He doesn't have to just be like a passive defensive Protoss that we saw last game. And in fact, the highlights moment of that game for MaNa were when he was aggressive, when his Warp Prism was dealing damage and he was counterattacking.
I wrote it in the chat, but I'm just going to say it to reaffirm it. Not that many of you probably speak English, but shout out to any of the Koreans that are still awake at this hour cheering on their players, their, I guess, their heroes, which is ironic enough because Hero is coming up next versus Denver. But for those that did stay awake and brave the late hours of the night, thanks for tuning in.
We get quite a few Korean fans that actually speak English.
Yeah, South Korea ends up bumping up on our list. Like, it juggles, right? It's always US #1. That never changes. But it juggles like South Korea, Germany for #2 fairly regularly. Although UK has been showing up in force lately. I don't know what's up with that either. UK has been like randomly, like some mornings the UK is here, and then some mornings they're like #10, so I don't know. It's not consistent.
I wish I knew more about the culture to make like a joke. Like they're taking their tea time, but I don't.
They've all got to celebrate the queen at these casting hours, right? That's how that works.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good use of it. So we have something that I think looks better than last game. I think this is going to be more lined up to a charge Archon attack. You know, he planted that Robo down and then used it to build Immortals, not just the Warp Prism. And it felt like a little off, but you know, I don't want to call it because he got Temple Archives last time and never used it.
I like the attempt to go for the Overlord creep spread, block out the third. Void Ray cleaning it up is nice, but this kind of has a little bit of a lingering effect on MaNa just being kind of screwed with thirds. It happened last game, and it's kind of starting to happen this game. There's enough Lings they're going to run in here by the time he actually gets to throw the Nexus down. They might actually be able to cancel it just because its health is going to be so low initially.
Yeah. Looks like he's not going to try for it, but that is definitely a good point. It's so low initially. Okay, they do try for it. Void Ray's got to catch up here, and there's only 2 Adepts, so...
Catch up. Ace K, boys. There's the cancel. Nice job out of Impact.
There's a Ling and Hydras on the way. Impact going no upgrades right now and could be actually going to use this opportunity to attack. Not so much a reaction to the Archons, although coincidentally it looks like he's just having perfect defense, but an actual intention to end this game before that third base is even an issue for him. This is actually a pretty powerful attack, to be honest. I'm not sure MaNa... It's really hard to tell, too. MaNa might not be seeing what, you know, would actually tell him, hey, it's going to be an all-in, it's going to attack me, until it's too late.
Well, he sees the Hydra's creeping out now. I was just checking his vision. He really hasn't seen anything leading up to this. So this group of Hydras is the first cluster of death that he's seen coming.
Yeah. But maybe it just looks like it's defensive. The real tells, right, are the lack of force base, the lack of actual drones, but that's really hard to get in there and see. Because 55 drones isn't impressive for a Zerg player if they're going to play macro, right? That's a 65 or 70 with a 4th base on the way. And even if he did notice this is on its way, could he even hold against it?
One of my major concerns, though, is like, no third base. Impact did such a great job delaying this, and MaNa has invested a lot of attention and, frankly, army to defending it. This is where the game could crumble on him. Like, this Hydra attack could be phenomenal, because MaNa's going to have to push down his ramp into a concave of Hydras to actually defend this.
Yeah. No, it's really just Hydras, right? The Lings are reinforcing right now, but it's a lot of light units that will die once they're jumped on. So it doesn't last as long as you would think, but the armor supply is substantial, and Impact does have a big chance to win the game right here, right now.
Impact was anticipating force fields, by the way. That was the awkward Hydralisk movement we just saw in response to those units showing themselves coming down the ramp. But Guardian Shields, Archon's going to fall to the top, get that shield battery, topping them off. Void Ray not going to last for very long either. That gets picked off pretty quickly. Colossus is on the way, but one Colossus isn't going to stop this. This is looking terribly bad for MaNa.
2 Colossus behind a gateway wall will just frustrate a Zerg to no end because they can't quite break it. But the gateway wall is going down, the Cybernetic core is going down, and the Colossus will not have the extended thermal lance, but they do come with default +1 range to what you're used to, so they can try and be microed.
Two Colossus actually have a fair bit of damage. Reminding everybody, they got bonus damage versus light now, 17 per shot times 2. So they can actually tear through these Hydras given that they have any sort of cover, but they don't. However,
Well,
Impact's also losing steam.
Yeah. They had just enough cover with the Sim City and the reinforcing units that one Colossus even barely lives.
This still killed 15 probes, though, and left Impact with a similar army supply, now moving to Lurkers. So I think in other situations, the Zerg players dedicated too much, they're dead as a response to the counterattack. The fact that this has got Lurkers coming, I'm actually not feeling too bad for Impact right now.
It's a very safe move, I absolutely agree. And MaNa did lose a fair number of probes, not mining from that third base, so it's not like he can help reinforce a counterattack either. Like, he'd be walking in with one severely injured Colossus and a handful of units. So, this is going to Impact plenty of time to get that economy up. The fourth base, I think, was... I thought it was on the way. Maybe it was denied by this Warp Prism. Maybe it was canceled, but it's finishing up now. Maybe it just took longer than I expected.
For me, though, this is like another perfect representation of MaNa. Like, a lot of players are going to die in that situation, but his micro was barely enough to keep the Colossus alive, killed the Hydra, stopped the attack, but it still might not be enough to win the game, which is so heartbreaking. Like, if there was a way for MaNa, like, I almost wish he would incorporate more turtle play, right? Like, pull off these crazy moves, but while you're transitioning to, like, Stargates behind it or something stupid, right? Like carriers. Then I think MaNa would be, like, an unstoppable force.
Well, I do like
his... He doesn't die.
I like his transition to Disruptors. Immortals also would have been an okay thing to get, but Disruptors, you know, you got that chance to just get into the heart of the Lurkers. Not as much of a chance as you did before they were changed. Now Disruptors immediately pop as soon as their center meets something, as opposed to, like, off a timer. But there's a more explosive potential against a Lurker-based play than is with Immortals that really need a concave and support to help out.
Well, I'd say it's also added by the fact that, like, with their cooldown being changed the way it is too, you can kind of afford to make weirder, bad moves. Old Disruptor, if you missed, game over, man.
Yep, that's a good point. Cooldown's definitely shorter. This is not a bad army to face what Impact has. Down 30 army supply is not as substantial because you got to consider that the army type of MaNa is just, it's really becoming better and better.
This is cool, though. This is giving me, like, Legacy of the Void beta nostalgia, because that's how people were responding to Lurkers back then. You'd go with Disruptors and you play this sort of cost-benefit game, cooldown versus the cost of the Lurker.
Oh, I did, like, backflips.
I was just thinking,
Yep.
Bender, do a flip.
But the one problem with MaNa's composition is that if he counts upon, it still can be vulnerable to the Lurkers. The force fields come down, Disruptors hit a couple of those Lurkers that just try to move out of the way.
Well, they're also hitting sacrificial roaches, so they're not actually getting to the Lurkers, which is a problem. Now they're on cooldown. Shield batteries are out of juice. Colossus are still finding a way to hold. This Colossus from earlier is up to 19 kills.
He doesn't have any detection anymore.
Oh, well, that's going to be it. Well, there's a cannon he can fall back to, I guess. But you
Yeah,
don't need
fall way
detection
back
with
to.
Disruptors. Those will just hit.
That's
It
true.
looks like...
Barely
but-
enough.
Yeah, the Observer got picked off. It's the only reason he was shooting things again. But this is what I'm talking about, man. MaNa is so good at, like... Did I say Mon? Yeah, what I'm Jamaican. MaNa is so good at just holding on where players normally can't hold on.
Yeah.
I'm like Harvey's Conrad right now, dude. I'm going full Futurama memes.
Well, MaNa is holding on. If he manages to break past this, he could be even in a winning position. His army, you know, the Colossus surviving, if these Disruptors survive, would be very, very fearsome. Tough, but I feel like it's going to get easier for MaNa before it gets easier for Impact.
Man,
Yeah, as I say it.
25 kills on that Colossus. These things have been so cost effective to help with this. There is still one problem of this Lurker. Doesn't have detection for it, but we'll take it out. Oh,
Ah, why?
What?
He might have thought there was another Lurker there. I don't know, because he's an observer. That was just odd. And he did lose all of that front buffer. All the Stalkers eventually went down to the Hydras, so only the important Robo units are left alive.
I think what happened there too, we saw some micro going on top left. That War Prism trying to escape with the Zealots. But man, I got that stupid like bureaucrat song stuck in my head. They go Hermes Conrad. I love Futurama.
I'm so glad that I hate musicals for the most part, because I keep skipping that part of the episode.
Did you not like the season finale one with the devil and Leela's hands?
No,
or whatever?
oh, I hate it. The Leela hands one was okay. The Bender Goes to Hell one, I really didn't like.
Oh man, I actually loved that song the first time I heard it, the second time I heard it, and then the third time I finally got sick of it.
Okay.
But I love that they do callbacks to it, like when they're in hell, he's like practicing the song, they just play the first couple like tunes, like.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a clever episode. I skip the musicals. Anyway, this is an interesting game. MaNa, it is a story of MaNa surviving its Impact's pretty all-in moves, because every single time Impact is attacked, it's been off of low upgrades and low economy. MaNa, kind of like Ditto, but in a more normal way, right? This is what you would expect from Protoss, a solid probe count and a solid upgrade count, but with a smaller army. Impact's supposed to be like, overwhelming and swarming a Zerg, and he's not, because it's been, a lot of very dedicated attacks.
These disruptor shots though are cool. We haven't seen enough of this in this matchup for me to be like, oh, this is sick meta play and this is definitely gonna work, but it is working for the time being. The Colossus, of course, have been a huge asset to this. These would be gladly appreciated up here. Unfortunately, it looks like these are fighting out range of the shield battery, so those zealots are gonna die.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Should have definitely been warped in elsewhere. MaNa is a really important thing about those attacks is that he kept the Colossus alive, and even though he lost a couple of disruptors, Chrono Boost goes into it, you don't have to worry about remaking the Colossus. They come out pretty quickly after, so he has a lot of splash in this army that Impact is going to not just be, benefiting from a concave, will actually need a concave to become the victor in an upcoming engagement.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw this out there, by the way. I think Impact going Roaches in this, it's like working, it's dancing. But if Impact went for like Mutas, man, you gotta consider all this gas and investments going into disruptors, into zealots. Like Blink's only just started for the stalkers. I think he could have actually picked off so many critical units or gotten around this slow-moving army to harass mineral lines because there's not been shield batteries. I think it's a missed opportunity.
That's a decent point. I'm glad to see he's getting Blink as well. And again, those upgrades are going to be substantial for what it could be a growing Blink army. Now, Impact is also continuing his upgrades, but obviously very slow. No Chrono Boost to help him out there. Only one Evolution Chamber. The drone count never really got up to, as I was talking about, that fearsome Zerg count. It was at 55 for a very long time, and now only at 63.
Yeah, but look at the income graph, right? Comparatively, it doesn't matter because it's all blue.
Yeah, it seems, it's a good point. But Impact could start losing out in the army trades, and without that humongous bank, well, that's where a couple more drones could have helped.
This disruptor shot's not going to quite hit the way they wanted to before. Some of them even being picked off early. This is maybe a little too far gone. It's going to be so hard to use all the cooldowns appropriately and take out the lurkers. Although,
it seems pretty far gone. Well, yeah, because it always looks like MaNa's on the ropes because he has to back into a mineral line. So he's looking very off. When you look at the supplies and the army type, he is just waiting to get rid of some of this buffer, and then he can explode forward and take care of the lurkers.
Which is exactly what he's doing right now. Takes him out with the Immortals pretty quick. Has to back away, though. Lack of detection proven to be a problem once again. But that's the beauty of disruptors. If you can see that burrow, you just shoot towards that general direction.
Yeah, I think Impact's probably getting caught up even more than like we sometimes, right? Like, oh my god, he's backing into the mineral line. He's, without a fourth base. I must be winning this game. And he's losing because his army type is actually just becoming increasingly worse as the game, as MaNa's Protoss army gets better and better. And he is becoming more and more all in. As I said, very dedicated attacks. I didn't quite want to say all in, but it really is. He needs to be on his way to higher tech if there really was a superb macro game to be had still.
Okay, losing that War Prism is going to sting a bit because one of the beautiful things he was doing was from the Zealots early on, that attack we just saw, he was getting some damage done behind enemy lines. He was harassing effectively. Good disruptor shots. Barely misses that one on the end. We do have a Zealot run by to the south. That'll find a base undefended.
That's a nice move. Denying Impact spaces is going to become important, especially if Impact, as we see, is forced to be defensive again. He's going to start having to replace a lot of lurkers being lost to these disruptors.
What is chat paying F respects to? The Warp Prism?
I'm not sure. But there's not a lot of buffer for this army, knowing like the Stalkers are all dead, the Zealots are all dead, and MaNa has to be very careful with this. Like getting another base killed, perhaps. think MaNa's starting to really steamroll.
It's tough because even in these fights here, it's looking like MaNa's doing much worse than he is. But can we give some credit to this Colossus? 40 kills at the end of the game. Alive since the beginning. It brought him back. GG. Things tied up now 1-1. We're going to play a quick commercial break though, guys, because we got to just speed roll through this. So we'll see you guys in 2 minutes with game number 3 when we get back. Quick reminder, guys, we are pushing for people to sign up for Ting if you're looking for a cheap phone bill solution. Ting might just be the answer. Go to bttv.ting.com to learn more. You get $25 in credit, and the average phone bill on Ting is $25 or less a month. So basically try a month out free on us. Spawning here to the top left, though, it's the red Protoss, Team Liquid's MaNa.
In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, he is dead pixels. Impact.
Quick shout out to Hello Zergling for their 38-month resub as well in my grand attempts to not fall super behind in shoutouts again. But we've had a heck of a day, some pretty long games, a deep series. I don't know if this will go all the way to game 5 or not, but it's good to see MaNa fighting back. I was really worried this would be like a 3-0, to be honest with you, but like a 3-0 where we watch him die gloriously, because that's kind of the MO from the past. But the reminder needs to be, MaNa in Season 1, he got to the finals, he fought against Rogue, it kind of sucked, but the point was he got all the way to the finals. Playing Impact here, new patch, new rules. I don't know if he'll make it that far, but I'm cheering for him.
Well, that last game was definitely a testament to his patience and just, I think, a Protoss. Because I think that the highlight moments are, you know, sometimes it's micro, sometimes it's the macro, but more often it's just like how patient and how well thought out a defense is, especially against an all-in like that. And MaNa, had he committed a little bit earlier, had he not micro the Colossus, do a very important Colossus, that one lasting 10 minutes, it might have been a lost game for him because he was always on the edge.
You know, we do need to point out about that Colossus is the fact that it was alive to the end of the game. I hyped up 40 kills. It's kind of funny to see sitting on red health. But the fact remains that he kept that Colossus alive for so long. It's not that it was amazing micro, but it means he didn't make big mistakes. Colossus weren't out of position. They weren't derping over a cliff. There's a lot to be said about MaNa's control. Might not have been outstanding and good, like watching Zest Warp Prism micro near a shield battery, but it was still really impressive because of just the sustainability of his units, keeping everything alive as long as he did. The control of the disruptors, I don't think we saw any friendly fire.
Not much, just that one really weird when they hit a couple of zealots.
Oh, you're right, so excuse me, yeah, but outside of that, it was just well handled out of MaNa.
Yeah, it was the kind of epitome of what we used to know Protoss as, is that if you can keep your expensive, long building units alive, then you've always got a shot. Whereas, you know, the most recent iterations of Protoss have been like throw Adepts, throw Stalkers, throw Charge Lots away, and still be okay because those aren't super expensive. Every Protoss unit is expensive, but obviously Colossus much more so. Keeping them alive is the most important thing in the world. The very old-fashioned Protoss players, and that's what he did. He kept them alive.
You could argue that about literally everything in StarCraft, though. Like, keeping the units alive is the most important thing. Don't let them die.
Yeah, but my point was that it's important to keep the super heavy ones alive, more so than a dozen Marines. You keep 15 medevacs alive, right?
Oh yeah, you're totally right. I agree with you, but it's such a broad statement, right? Like, what's the one rule in life? Don't die.
I guess so.
Oh, this Void. Yeah, rest in peace, dude. He doesn't even need to prismatically align it. It's just like dead on arrival.
Yeah, but I got some freebie scouting. Not that I wouldn't have. The border was going to kill it, whether it was there or not. It's going to go roaming around for more Overlord kill, too.
I think picking up Overlord kills against Impact is very important because Impact is a drop player. Not necessarily early on, but we've seen countless games where he'll do like the 3 Banelings, 2 Zergling combo attacks. Like, keeping those Overlords off your side of the map stops scouting, but most importantly, stops Impact from dropping. And he's, again, a player who does this whenever given the opportunity.
Double Stargates. We saw this from Neeb, and it worked out pretty damn well. The scout on it was super late, so that's mostly why it worked out well. And Impact still does need to re-scout the second Stargate before we can say that he knows that good's on the way.
Next is going to get taken here in just a moment. Waiting on the minerals. At least... Protoss Stargate units are fairly expensive, but Oracles in comparison to like Void Rays are not. So that's kind of the beauty. If you are going to mass these units out, you can still afford to take an expansion while doing so.
Mm-hmm. This could be problems for Impact. We saw actually 2 Mass Oracle games in the past 2 ZVPs. Everything today is a ZVP. Rip Terrans, but at least no mirror matchups. And hey, maybe if it's in a perfect world, the semifinals would both be non-mirror matchups too.
Well, that's the question. Would you rather have the mirror matchups in the semifinals or the grand finals? Because if there's 2 non-mirror matchups in the semis, it does present that as a possible problem. Whereas 2 mirror matchups in the semis guarantees no mirror in the finals.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I personally actually am so thrilled with where PvP and ZVZ is now compared to, like, say, even half a year ago. I actually wouldn't even mind. But we'll see as things develop here. Of course, let's not forget, reminder, we still got Hero versus Denver coming up after this. Best of 5. We are kind of coming close to the end of our front page time, and that's all dandy. We got a real good kick out of it today. It'll be very interesting to see how many people stick around after that falls off. But reminder, if you're watching from the front page casual, you've been enjoying the show, come join us on the channel. I'm not even going to say the follow thing, okay? Just come join us on the channel. Hang out and chat. Shield battery helping keep a lot of these probes alive. Ones that are errantly transferring to and fro from long distance mining. Come on, guys.
That changeling is helping block. That's not actually your job, buddy.
But it's also pushing the adept out so there's more surface area. I don't know.
Doesn't matter, it's roaches. Oracle's gonna have to come back to deal with this. No, actually the Void Ray's here. And these Oracles, yeah, they don't have to come back at all.
Yeah, prismatic alignment, if it gets to go off, is gonna melt the roaches, but of course it makes the Void Ray move slow as hell, so it's better that he's just leaving this in auto attack mode. It looks like he's got this too. The Oracles coming home aren't even all that necessary.
Nah, no they aren't. But I guess he wouldn't be microing them efficiently, paying attention to this, so they might as well come home and not be, I don't know, surprise fungled. There are no infestors yet, and it's going to take a little while to get to them because he just spent all of his money on Hydras. But, you know, it's always a scary thought for Protosses. And then there's a lot of Hydras starting things off. So hopefully enough to take care of the Oracles.
I'm excited to see just more infestor usage. I know that the first week of combination of Lima League and BTSL and all the Korean events, none of the Zergs were using them.
This was really suspicious by MaNa. That was... I mean, he obviously recognized it was a bad idea at the end there, but some of the Oracles didn't pop their energy, and there was just too many Hydras.
Well, in fairness to MaNa, though, Oracles are ridiculous and usually take on copious amount of Hydralisks with relative ease.
Yeah, that is true. But I think that with the 3 Oracles that didn't immediately... You're right, like maybe that does win out, but it was always a suspicious... I feel like Oracles, yeah, they can be brute force. Be like, they'll use them, but they're kind of like mutas where, you know, they're light, they're expensive, and you really should be quite confident you can take an army before you take an army. That seems like a, oh, hey, oh, whoops, type of thing.
Actually, I've got a better amount of Rifkin logic to apply to this. MaNa knows that he's actually doing pretty well this game, and he only plays amazingly when he's getting beaten back. So he has to take a bad fight to churn up the heat.
He has the plan. Sure. I can't... Okay, so the major problem with Rifkin logic here in StarCraft 2 is not the actual logic itself, but it's the idea that any of these players could be thinking of a conspiracy theory almost, and everything they can do in StarCraft. Because if your logic came from, like, they're going to plan this beforehand, okay, I can give you some credit, but it's like they're starting to plan this while doing everything else, macro and micro. I'm like, nah, no way.
Well, the other alternative is MaNa has developed an ego for the first time in 7 years, and he's like, Oracles, I've got this, no problem. Whoa, no.
You know, he did play that one really weird game on Catalina where he didn't even bother going to charge and storm. He literally just went past Oracle. So he has a lot of faith in these things, I guess.
They're pretty good. Want to see some of that DPS here. One of the Oracles goes down, though. Not going to be so hot here for MaNa as he's just turning tail to run. Well, he's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. The impact's on him. Another Oracle goes down.
It's a tag, at least, at the very end. So he is on his way to storm and charge lots. His charge is done, but he needs a lot more of them. he needs to get to Storm, so Chronobush should be hopefully invested into that. He's still bidding Oracles, but his count was cut so early on that I'm really worried he's never going to find that ideal mass ever again. Not compared to Impact's growing Hydra army and the ability to festers now.
So I'm gonna mansplain this to a guy in chat who's telling me to quit mansplaining to you. You have been timed out, not banned. So don't make a big hissy fit about BaseTradeTV banning you. There you go. That's gonna be the most common thing that I get frustrated with is people get so upset about being banned from the channel when they've just been timed out. It's like, no, you got a 600-second breather. You're not banned from the channel. Banned is you're never coming back.
Yeah, I hate that too.
Well, Oracle, I like that he's using one at a time to cast Revelations rather than fly a huge clump of them to their death. We got to see a really sick fungal earlier today, and that's always kind of the fear. You don't know that there's not an infestor waiting to get that one sick fungal.
It's scary. Oh, MaNa's going for triple robo behind this.
No, not quite Zest levels. Quintuple robos.
Yeah.
Oh god. Well, we're gonna get to see the DPS challenge here. A lot of Oracles versus a lot of Hydras, and I think this is the type of engagement MaNa expected to take earlier. Now finally getting it against Impact 11.5 minutes in, and oh my god, he mows him down.
A couple of infestors would have been so key right there. Even though they don't permanently stop anymore, they slow. That would have been the difference of a lot of extra damage. Absolutely.
I think one of the problems, though, this looked like such a good fight for MaNa, and we're all cheering for the Protoss now, but his tech's kind of behind, right? Impact's got upgrades, he's getting to Hive Tech. That was a horrible fight for him, there's no doubting that. But MaNa's not exactly skyrocketing to a lead off of it either.
Yeah, no 5th base. Storm only just begins. Yeah, Impact certainly has the opportunity to re-max, but now the question is, can he do it on a good composition? He's got to be... I mean, I hope he's worried that MaNa's onto better units, such as even Stargates. And I kind of wonder why MaNa didn't just go into Stargates. Why the triple Mortals? It's keeping him on this ground tech seems to be the way to potentially lose a fight.
Well, part of this, too, is like whether it's going to be Ultras, which are apparently on the way, or whether it's for maybe just dealing with the Infestors better. Because the Immortals will, like, two-shot an Infestor, right? With full upgrades, just pop them off real quick. Actually, how much health does an Infestor have? I think it gets two-shot, right?
That sounds right. I don't remember.
Yeah, 90 health.
Okay. Well, yeah. Alright, well. It's just that MaNa has such like a long opportunity. Like, the worst thing about going into carriers or any type of Stargate play is that if you start from such a low count, if they attack you, you might just die. But after taking a big fight like that, that's usually the opportunity Protoss are looking for.
This isn't going to work quite like I think he was hoping, but as mentioned, Impact is someone who likes to do banning drops, so have to keep an eye on it. Nice response time out of MaNa, though. The army happened to be in a good position anyways, and it denies that drop entirely.
Ultras coming out. They're probably, again, thinking about later game, you know, High Templars being taken care of.
Ooh.
But it's not going to help against Immortals. This ends up being perfect for what MaNa ended up doing.
Yeah, Impact actually hasn't scouted any of the Robos, so he doesn't have knowledge that there's triple of them. But he did see Immortals out already, so I'm surprised to see him still invest in the Ultras. Granted, Ultras can still take a hit, even from units that melt them like Immortals, but still to go... This is like so counterintuitive. It's like going Masslings versus Hellions. Good luck.
Yeah, I'm worried for Impact's composition, but you know, when he gets a round, matter. The Protoss army really needs at least some room to maneuver. And Storms need to really blanket, you know, a big clump of an army, so surround's the worst thing that could happen to MaNa. But he's charging in, killing a base, trying to get some own damage in. Impact is going to be denied just by warping.
Getting some good counter damage. These things now get into the probe line, but unfortunately, most of the probe line's covered by a shield battery, so that gives Zealots time to warp in. The shield battery is doing a pretty good job holding.
Oh no, this time Extra's gonna be targeted. You didn't consider that.
Ooh. Where are those banelings coming? Back at home? Back at home, okay. Well, shield battery will keep the probes from necessarily getting melted. Impact's still struggling to get that crazy amount of damage done. but it's done an adequate amount of poke to MaNa, I'd say. However, my concern for this is MaNa's coming up with +3 weapons. This could be amazing for things like the Immortals. And I guess technically benefits the High Templar now with their attack at 6 damage.
Heyo.
But Impact's had pretty good upgrades across the board. And he's got chitinous plating. He's got +3 carapace on the way. I don't know if these ultras will be tanky enough against what MaNa has, but it'll be interesting to see them go up against them.
It's really about positioning for me. And MaNa is safe as he continues to deal with the distractions as he's at home. But when he pushes to the middle of the map, if he then gets distracted, well, that could be really bad. Odyssey's middle of the map is the most concavable area that Impact could possibly get. Even a couple of these areas here would be pretty nice.
How can I report BaseTradeTV for being too awesome? By hitting the donate button, I guess, technically. It's a big report. Everyone gets to hear about it. Vipers are going to be an interesting mix. I guess I hadn't really considered this, but assuming they don't get feedback for the moment, Blinding Cloud's going top of the Immortals gives the Ultralisks a little bit more power. And on top of this, going to be a lot of transfuses with Queens behind this. But there's so many Templar. Feedback should really be on the front lines and ready to go.
I'm liking what Impact's adding on to this army now. Not just the upgrades, but Neural Parasite, Viper, Go to Spire. Yeah, those are all A+ things to get.
Yo,
the actual army itself was still potentially weak.
Big attack down here to the south. I was just going to comment. I think Templar auto attacks just look like they're throwing snowballs, man.
It's probably what they're doing. Minor annoyance kind of makes the Hydras feel cold.
That's what the equivalent of it, right? They just turn the AC up.
Yeah. Well, these Ultras, tanking a lot for these Hydras, might be able to tear down the base. MaNa's warping in and trying to respond, but, you know, one at a time here. It's a bit awkward.
So really costly for both sides. Impact is not a cheap run by, and for MaNa, it's the fact that he has to pull back and defend this. He still might not get it. That Nexus is so low.
Yeah,
Impact's gonna get it.
Definitely something that MaNa can replace. MaNa is the one banking a lot here, as Impact has been trading out Lings and obviously now just Hydras and Ultras. It's never quite up to a bank accruing state in this game. Losing a base there, then losing some RB there. He is still not maxed. I guess MaNa isn't either, but MaNa is transitioning into those carriers finally. I still think the Immortals could have been a problem, but Impact responding, well, not responding, but just coincidentally making Ultras ended up making it look like the perfect idea. Now it's on to those carriers, and Impact is going to have to think about how to deal with those.
I didn't expect this game to get here, man. But this late game trade is going to be... I kind of feel similar to what we saw with DNS and Scarlet in terms of... And I'm not saying in favor of Protoss necessarily, but what I'm saying is composition is going to have to be right to deal with this. You can't just go in with an even army supply. It's not going to cut it. And my fear is I actually really like Impact's army a lot. Like a lot. MaNa might be going carriers, but because of the amount of supply he has on the ground, he's not going mass carriers. He's going to go like 4 carriers, full stop.
Yeah, he's gonna have to lose supply in a very wise way. Not even efficient. You know, efficient is taking out the army of Impact as well, but it's losing a lot of ground army, maybe not rebuilding fast enough, whereas Zerg typically rebuilds faster. We know that Impact doesn't have that much of a bank. MaNa doesn't. He's gonna have to be careful if he does want to give away army supply.
Yeah, if you're MaNa, you're like, oh, my Zerg OP opponent probably has like 1 million minerals in the bank because they're Zerg.
Yeah, that is kind of the default thinking, even if you know you've killed a bunch of bases. You just gotta be careful, so. But he should eventually give away some supply. He'll probably pick up the Immortals at some point, so he doesn't need this many, considering where this game is going to. You know, there's not many Ultras left over, not too helpful otherwise. And he'll probably pick those up and bring them to a hatchery and try and kill it.
So, while this game is coming, what is looking to be close to an end with maybe one of these big fights, I just want to give a quick last thank you to everybody for tuning in from the front page, because we should be coming off soon. There's a parasitic bomb or two. Yeah, baby.
I think that I'm surprised feedbacks didn't go down. I could have sworn they would have been in range, but perhaps MaNa not looking. Still has a lot of High Templars that can feed back these other important spellcasters. Queens and Infestors still around.
This was something that This isn't an I told you so moment or anything, but it's just that example. Like Scarlet missing this from her play, it could have taken all the shields off the carriers, but that being said, even with the shield strip, it's still a tough fight to take. Not enough corruptness to really one-shot them down. Bailey's crashed into the front lines, but Storms are just melting everything else, and Impact's forced to use all of his transfuses on Broodlords.
Yeah, that's a bit too late. There's going to be enough Stalkers if he just had another Warp in, but the Warp Prism is gone. The Immortals have got all the Queens.
Transfuses are so sick. Those Broodlords are all cats. They got like 9 lives, and most of the anti-air is gone.
Yeah. Oh, there's no Observer, so a couple of awkward infestors, but at the end of the day, Impact's the one that loses out on the war. Gonna lose this game.
Yeah, that warping of Stalkers from the side base there was so critical to clean those up. Because we talked about before, Impact, okay, he's got a mineral bank, but he doesn't have a gas bank. So he can't actually make a bunch of Hydras or round 2 of Broodlords. In fact, he's probably going to be forced to make a bunch of Zerglings whether he wants to or not.
Yeah. This is a big problem. You know, the lack of bank, but especially the gas bank. I really was looking at that fight as, you know, a lack of infestors too, which...
Ooh.
Because he didn't have that much gas. I was quite desperate.
Drones is going to get pulled away. There's too many here anyways. There's like 40-something drones mining this base. Top right is getting harassed by some Zealots. Charge lots are pretty good for these run-bys too. So base in the south gets killed, mining on the top gets pulled off, and Impact's income plummets to almost 0. He's not mining right now.
This is not a very good-looking army. Trying the best to buy time, though. Impact would have at least a couple mining bases, with this new one being brought up. Gonna take them a long, long time to get another gas bank.
Yeah, I like that, at least with the Templar having an auto attack, as silly as it looks, it makes it feel more cinematic, like the Legacy of the Void cinematic. Because, like, yeah, you got these all-powerful Psionic units that just can't do anything except every once in a while.
This actually is not an army covered by storms. So, while this should have had Archons and a lot more charge lots, and the charge lots actually derp into the Hydra, what was that? Doesn't have it, had to wait for them. There it is. Without those storms, the Hydra army was pretty scary against mass Immortals.
12 Immortals is so many. To the point where I almost wish she didn't have this many, actually. Make more room for other units. But MaNa's not exactly maxed out, so... Once he is maxed out, that might be something to consider.
Exactly. That's what I was calling before that big fight happened, was that he would eventually get rid of them. But they ended up being heroes in a way, taking out all those queens, surviving past the broodling attacks, just with their, you know, shields and amount of health. But I think that's a rarity. It's not going to happen again. 12 Immortals is a bit severe. 6 would probably be better, and more Archons, right, or charge lots. But he's got them, and he doesn't want to give them away, because he's not maxed out, and they can still be helpful.
This is a good way to spend your minerals. Shield batteries en masse, we've actually got to witness from Neeb and other players, and they can be pretty disgusting. This base also not an optimal position. Stalker's just sitting in the high ground sniping off drones. Base down here also not going to get planted down. Zealots are sitting there waiting to pick it off. I'm really interested in the no Viper approach to this. It's not been a problem so far, or not Viper, excuse me, Tempest approach to this. It's not been a problem for the Broodlords so far, but to see none, no chance to poke for free, I guess.
I was wondering where you're going with that. Yeah, no Tempest from either of their late games EVPs. The shield batteries are now ready to go on the front lines. It's an extra thing that Impact has to bust through with his broodlings.
Oh, that Broodlord gets taken out. Feedback goes on one of the Vipers. Second Viper gets picked off. GG. Oh, MaNa with a long-ass game takes it. Now up 2-1 in the series. I tell you what, guys, we wouldn't normally put a commercial break here, but I got to take a break myself. So we're going to go for 2 minutes. When we get back, it'll be Game 4. Could be the deciding match. See you guys soon. All right, folks, we're back. Thank you for watching that commercial break. I just had the most ghetto lunch of all time. Are you ready to hear about it?
I'm ready.
Took 2 handfuls of Cheerios, stuffed my cheeks full like a chipmunk, and it took a big swig of milk.
Wow. Man, that reminds me.
That's the casted lunch when you're on the go. That's the passion lunch because you don't want to let the audience down.
Instead of like a fruit bar or something like that. But yo, I had like the worst time at breakfast. You ever get those moments, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever, where you're like, you know, you want to eat, but everything just like kind of sounds like okay, not great. So you try one thing, not great, I don't want to eat this. Try another thing, not great, I don't want to eat this. Try another thing, well, I'm kind of full now because I just ate like portions of the two things.
I can't say I've had that problem, but I can easily see that being a problem.
Yeah, because I had like Chex Mix with almond milk, but this almond milk was vanilla flavored, and oh my god, I was like, this is actually terrible. How did my dad do this?
Well, folks, we're in game number 4. Spawning here to the bottom right, we've got the Red Protoss, Team Liquid's MaNa.
In the top left is the blue Zerg. He is Impact.
And by the way, dear StarCraft fans, give yourselves a pat on the freaking back. Lost the front page 5 minutes ago, kept 7,600 viewers! Oh, it feels good, man.
Your voice was kind of going like, Bill Cosby levels of like, about to freak out.
Feels so good with the viewers and the subs and the follows. Just...
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that was just me and because I'm getting your Corsair headset for people that don't know. So maybe it looks a little distorted.
I kind of forgot about that, actually. I've just had this thing in front of my mouth the whole time and wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay.
Well, regardless of this, I do want to remind everybody that we've had really long series, really long games, no complaints here whatsoever, but there is still a fourth and final best of 5 coming up after this with Denver versus Hero. Denver, by the way, has just been tearing it up. I know we're all on Team Hero, guys. Like, I love Denver, man. I know that if he dies, he's gonna die gloriously.
Oh man, if Hero's on point, I fear it's like a turkey vulture picking off the meat off the bones. You know,
the 3-0 stomp.
Yeah, just like micros his way around the kid. Like, ugh.
Not even knowing anything about how that goes, like, I'm just gonna quickly mention that, like, none of these games, none of these series have gone how I thought it was gonna go. I actually had a couple of 3-0s in mind, and we've had game 5, and now this, if it is Impact's game, we'll go to another game 5 potentially. And yeah. The sad thing is, actually, I may have been wrong about who's been where for the Ting seasons, but I do know this. The round of 8s have almost always been better than every other matchup for the entire tournament. That's kind of keeping true here, even with the PvZs all being PvZs.
PvZs, yeah. Well, it's even more to your credit, right? That they started off even in the series looking at maybe 3-0s, like regardless of your premonitions of what you think would happen before. Yeah, they looked like it would be 3-0s. So this is the first time we had it back and forth a little bit more. MaNa, though, seeming very strong as we get more and more macro games. That one game, the game that he lost, there was that weird Templar archives. It felt like he was like shaking off some rust. He changed his mind, you know, halfway through. That's really impactful in the early game.
We should actually address a little bit of awkwardness with MaNa real quick, guys. So the Ting finals are set in stone. They can't be moved at this point. MaNa may not be able to compete in them even if he wins here in the round of 8. The reason for this is because he's possibly competing in another tournament, some Heroes related thing. I don't know the details. Team Poland. I'm not 100% sure if there's conflicts of dates, but it's looking like there might be. And if that's the case, I don't know how we're going to dance around that, frankly, yet. Maybe we revive Impact or something, but we'll be discussing that in length depending on the outcome of the series. So if MaNa wins, we're going to have a lot of homework and dancing around to do. But I mean, it's not impossible to do replays and try and organize things ahead of time.
That does suck, though. I mean, yeah, that does really suck.
I don't want to do replays. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, but we'll see what options we're presented with. Let's get through the series first. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Impact still might bring this back.
Well, MaNa's starting off with a different build than the other ones he's used so far. So an Archon or DT drop. Turning to Archons, maybe immediately, maybe he'll actually try it. There is a Spore Crawler on the way. And the lair is pretty fast. But yeah, that Spore Crawler isn't here. Impact got no scouting since his Overlord died. Well, maybe that just happens.
Focus. I love this. I think focusing down the lair is the better choice, and then use the Archons for the harass after. Oh, he's not going to go for that, though.
It's a tough choice to make, because you see so many units you can kill. You're hoping for really efficient trades. He does grab the Queen finally, but I agree. Perhaps targeting and picking up would have been a better option. Thing is, I checked Impact's vision. He did see the Dark Shrine. I just don't know when. He might have been planning on the Overseer being perfectly timed. It was so close to not being, though. That was really worrying.
The delayed Archon merging, by the way, was huge. This If he just rushed out to do this right away, he would have actually lost something, but with the Zealots protecting them, now he has a really strong push. Zealots might get microed, but I hope they aren't prioritized because it's all about these Archons.
Now, this isn't a follow-up immediately into charge, but just these Zealots, just a couple of warp-ins can really make the difference against someone who was only going Lings, only just outing Hydras, and might not even be enough if they're in really low numbers.
The splash here was so good. He's cleaning this out. 8 drones dead, a lot of workers. Impact is going to be behind from this attack one way or the other. But MaNa has dedicated everything to this. Like, this is also not something MaNa can just so move frivolously to victory for. Losing the Warp Prism is a big problem.
No, that's true. He's trying to build Immortals right now from the Robo instead of another Warp Prism, and I think another Warp Prism would be so much better. The Immortals are making their way across the map.
Focus the Overseer!
No.
Because it's splash damage that's just hitting it, right? But if he kills the Overseer, there's nothing for the DTs.
Alright, I think even Impact noticed that the last second. Plus, he was going way off of creep without those Hydra upgrades, just endangering himself. That
is smoke, by the way, for high ground vision, guys, so he actually couldn't see through this to chase the Archons anyways, so falling back is definitely the better choice there. While this goes on, of course, MaNa does actually expand. Impact was trying to block out the base. Not going to happen. With 2 new Archons joining the front line, that's a lot of damage, but ooh, one of them already almost dead. Still not killing the Overseer.
I think you can definitely tell that MaNa had a little bit of indecision. He committed a lot to that push, and I think the intent was to follow up with the Zealot Warping. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, in terms of his timings on his tech. The 3rd base could have been put down a little bit sooner, and the tech could have been started a little bit sooner. He's banking a lot, even after throwing down all of that production tab. So that's unfortunate, because I think he was getting a lot of leads from that, and I think he still got the lead from that. But there is a little bit of mistake here that perhaps Impact can survive off of.
People talking about Zest doing this for Stolen Homestar. Dude, Zest did this in the Elima League and the BTSL, both tournaments that happened right after Homestar Cup. If you guys don't know, Zest triple championed that week. He went from Homestar Cup to Elima League to BTSL, and he won all of them really handily.
When people say this is the Zest build, they think Zest does all versions of the double... Or, sorry, the double Archon drop, I guess. Double Warp Prism, follow-up charge that all in. He does it all.
I think right now, if you win versus Zerg, it's a Zest build. Because Zest is doing it all, man. And he is kicking everybody's butt. That's what what I really enjoyed seeing out of Zest was he had a lot of his standard builds still working through control, made them better. There's that one micro clip we got. It's one of the highest viewed clips in the last month. But then on top of this, he also had some variety in his builds. Zest is a player who we've cast for a year and a half where every game was one build. No matter what. Win, lose, it was the same build. Every game, every best of 3, every tournament. We're seeing variety out of Zest now, and I think that's why he's starting to become such a good freaking player. Well, I shouldn't say becoming, he already is, but a better player.
Well, while MaNa was setting up his tech swap, going into Colossus here, adding on upgrades, saturating that 3rd base, Impact was also looking towards different compositions. Going for Mutas right now, Impact does not have a strong economy. No 4th base, 61 drones is okay, but again, no 4th base is problematic. But the Mutas might just be the biggest and most important trip up in this game, as MaNa has not seen this. And even if he saw the Spire, you might not know it's dedicated.
This is actually a pretty nice time for the Banley attack. The mineral patches are mining out, so being spread in between these same mineral patches, probes are more stacked, more likely to get value, but MaNa sees this coming, so nice moves to pull the probes. Oh, that pylon would be a huge depower, by the way. It's up +2.
Red.
But he's looking for probe kills.
Warping in Stalkers because the Overlord warps in Stalkers for the Mutas. And they weren't dedicated too much to. We are back to going into Hydras for Impact.
Okay. Impact kind of messed up the second 2 Banelings, but the first 2 were amazing.
There's a couple of Banelings here, but Archon's a tank on the front lines. It's really nothing too juicy to grab with the Banelings. They finally get to one of the sentries that was in the heart of it. But MaNa needs a bit more buffer. There's just too much army in a concave, especially with the drones pulled.
I think there was an opportunity to grab the Warp Prism just now, but I can totally understand not moving through that ramp into 2 Colossus firing on them. The Mutas are still roaming around. Though these... I feel like if MaNa just throws in like 2 shield batteries, it's not going to have to worry about these Mutas at all.
Awkward. Yeah, they're on the wrong side of the mineral line. Blink is only halfway done. I assume he's going to try and chrono it once he gets his wits together. There we go. Chrono pretty good now, especially if you've been banking it up for a while.
Stalkers with that weapon damage change are noticeable here versus the mutas. Sitting there on 17 damage a shot to these.
Now that looked like a bit of a clumsy attack, I suppose. MaNa was in danger of just not having enough to protect his Colossus, and obviously had to just run back home. It still was a, I think, good attack because it survived, most importantly, and Impact had to respond to that so seriously. He still didn't have a fourth base, only just now slapping that down. And now MaNa's second attack is new and improved. It's got Blink, it's got +2, it's got double the Colossus, and it still has that Warp Prism. What?
Sorry, I was responding to something.
No, the army just kind of pulled back. It was kind of weird. But he is accidentally warped in with a pylon. That is slow. That's still in effect. 9 probes go down. I think if MaNa had committed to the attack, it would have been a deadly one, but doesn't want to have his focus split. He's just kind of roaming the map awkwardly.
Impact's got a pretty nice number of corruptors for this. I mean, even with Blink Stalkers and Archons in consideration, these can still take down a couple of those Colossus before they go down. Oh, unless they get focused like that. That many Stalkers would never one-shot a Corruptor in the past. That damage change, man. That damage change.
Yeah. So MaNa isn't on the perfect composition yet. These Archons are from DTs, not High Templars, and Storm is noticeably missing. Wow, Sentry's taking out Mutas.
Also, we 100% needed to restart Discord, like right now.
Discard Discord.
Discard this Discord. All right, well, while Zombie gets back on the call here in a sec, guys. Yeah, things got warbly and laggy there. I was just going to mention, a lot of people are talking about the damage change. We've been talking about the damage change for the Stalkers. It's that they attack much slower as the trade-off for their higher damage, but that affords them more opportunity through upgrades and through burst attacks. Also, speak, woman, how you sounding?
Don't tell me what to do.
Okay, would you please speak of your own free will if you are feeling up to it?
Damn straight.
Okay, it sounds better.
Cool. So notably, MaNa has that 5th base that he just went to defend against the Mutas still. So if he loses this one, he's got a safer one to take on. But force fields are holding those Banelings at bay. Colossus getting a lot of shots in, but not running away or just dying to the Corruptors.
I think he was hoping the Archons would shoot them as they dragged over, but that's not what happened. Colossus all just so busy retreating. There's no damage being done, taken out of the fight. Now it's just force fields keeping the army at bay, and those are eventually going to run out. I
think it's a really big thing here in that Impact probably thought the High Templars are going to have Storm, which they do 5 seconds later, but he might have been able to push in even further had he known that timing was ever so slightly there. But important that the Storm just finished, because without the Colossus, he needed splash damage, and now his army is back to being pretty good with that amount of Storms. But he did take a very awkward fight there. The Infestation Pit is finally added on, as well as a Lurker Den. I'm not sure Lurkers are the best thing to get this late into the game. The army of the Protoss is just so big. You're attacking the middle of the map at this point, really back and forth. Lurkers don't seem as powerful, but they can be a helpful tool, especially if he was to get to the Hive upgrade. Then they can be, I think, even more effective later on in the game when they can actually help run up to the army with the rest of the reinforcements. Let's see what happens.
It's still funny to see Muta use, by the way. I thought these were just going to completely fall out with how they went earlier, but I guess they got some okay kills, and they are keeping the Stalkers in the back of the base, but they're picked off pretty easily. Blinks off cooldown in just a moment, so we should be able to finish these off.
Yeah, they stopped being microed.
Muta's no longer a problem. These little funnels in the middle of the map are super awkward, but nothing that's going to cause any game-deciding moves just yet.
Well, Stalkers need to go back to help the front. Yeah, the army looks awfully small without them. 10 Lurkers are on the way, but again, I'm just not sure they're going to be that good against what is a very powerful, large army. It's not in a choke. It's not in a small, cramped space. It's got a lot of room to maneuver around the Lurkers, but I guess as they speak, Impact's looking for a more complicated position. MaNa's gonna have to respond, but be a little bit too late. Lurkers walk so derpy.
They do, but they also do so much damage, so it's kind of okay. It's like that kid who looks a little weird, but he's super talented. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
The lurkers are just too awkward to take care of. You know, they were behind mineral lines, they were behind structures.
Oh, there's the storms though.
Yeah, the Immortals finally get to a couple of them in a decent position, and actually with the storms, he could take on this army entirely.
So many more storms too. That's not even the end of it. He might lose his frontline momentum, but MaNa's doing something really good behind this. He's going for disruptors again.
Yeah, that is a good point. He's also finalizing his attack upgrades. The storms, the High Templars almost died to a couple of Banelings, but they were microed back. And MaNa now has, still has rather 5 bases. I guess he just lost 1, but because he expanded the backside and the front side, he can still transfer his workers around. Very obnoxious Ling attack, though, as soon as he does that.
But they go for the Nexus, not the probes, so not a big deal. Take a quick look at the income graph, man. This has been an Impact-favored money game for a while. And well, MaNa, it's a tough decision to say, really. He's up in army supply. He's got a good type of army supply. But anytime he gives Impact, that's where the income starts coming into play. The more time it is to build Lurkers, the more time it is to get the larva for Hydras, you name it.
He's going forward face first with the most delicate units he has.
Yeah.
That was a big problem. A couple have survived, a couple of storms still available.
Feedback's not necessary in this situation, but detection is...
Oh, yeah. Big issue, and now the concave wraps in.
This is looking pretty bad for MaNa, actually, because let's not forget he lost another base while this went on. Impact did just lose 15 drones, though, so maybe that kind of evens things up a little bit in the scales.
I think so. That, that base, it would have been really a lot worse if MaNa hadn't gotten the back base, had he been like very stubborn and just attaining these new bases towards the front, and if he hadn't immediately kind of almost double expanded with the 5th at the front, or the 4th at the front. This is the 5th. So I think it's actually okay. It's pretty fair. MaNa just needs to actually find a good position, because that's so far been what's losing him the game, is getting caught out of position or moving into a position without really taking, putting eyes on the army first, and losing observers because of it.
On that note with the observers too, because it's been asked a couple times, why no observers, MaNa? The thing is, we saw this with Scarlet series, and we're kind of seeing this with MaNa a little bit too. Observers are really frail units, guys. They're not dependable when it comes to detection on the front lines. And while they're cloaked, and that's kind of cool, all it takes is like a Hydra to sneeze on them and they die. So last thing you want to do is be so committed, deep in enemy lines, ready to take that lurker fight of your life, and then suddenly you can't see them.
This is why Stargate openers can be very helpful. Very long-term plan, but it used to be a very important one, because lurkers used to be every single PvZ. You can just keep on building oracles, but at this point in time, in such an action-packed game, to afford to get that Stargate, it would actually take too much. So
this is not a Baneling drop; it's a lurker drop. I love it.
Cool.
10 out of 10 Impact.
A single cannon would have helped with that, but MaNa really hoping that base would never been touched. No.
Yeah, that was almost a mistake to go back to the mineral lines. But okay, here's the observer. Problem is, stalkers can't even necessarily deal with this easy mode because they take so much damage from the lurker.
Oh god. Okay, finally cleaned up. MaNa, meanwhile, when not attacking, expanded again to a gold base, and soon his income, I believe, will be higher than Impact's. It's dipped a couple of times, but should be really going in his favor.
So I'm learning a new drawback to the rearranging of my room from last night.
What's that?
There's blinding light coming in through those blinds at me.
Guess you have to invest into like
heavier blinds.
Yeah.
These are more like sun diffusers than sun blockers, so yeah. That's not a problem. We'll figure that out later. I can still see the game fine. It's mild annoyance. Disruptor's looking for those hits. It's gonna take 2 disruptor shots to take down a lurker, no matter what the situation is.
Ooh, Lurker Den being targeted. That is a very important defensive tool Impact's obviously been depending on.
I'm surprised too, because I was just checking his buildings, right? Never went to Hive, never got the Lurker upgrade. If you're gonna play around Lurkers this heavily, I gotta imagine that'd be worth it.
I really wondered why Blizzard separated the 2 buildings, but I guess this is one of those examples where it's really quite nice, because you don't have to rebuild a Hydra Den and then go to the Lurker Den. You lose one or the other, and you can build one or the other. Just seems like such a... They never really split buildings before, which is why I was so shocked by it.
Yo, here's the one thing about the lurker design I don't get. Why do they have the equivalent of like webbed toes?
So I think anything with Zerg and design-wise can just be explained by their remnants of whatever they took the unit, the animal from, you know?
Sure. So they were
Mutants
like
were
sugar
bats.
gliders?
Maybe, hey, you don't know. They could have been.
Cute little sugar gliders turned into lurkers?
That's what all of the Zerg units are just like really monstrous types of units that are turned even more monstrous because they're got a hold of them.
What if it's like, this is how they drop from orbit and they just parachute by spreading their legs?
Oh my god, that'd be so cute, actually.
All right, well, the lurkers, as derpy as they are, design-wise, whatever, they're really deadly. And getting over here, oh my god, the disruptor hits are so good for MaNa, but he's getting flanked at the same time. Storms push off the Hydras. This gives him a few more seconds to deal with the lurkers. And dealing with the lurkers independent of the army makes this a much more manageable fight.
He's got a couple more storms locked and loaded, and that's really important. He was losing out on the front lines. A couple disruptor shots, too, as the cooldown is significantly reduced.
Let's not forget, MaNa's also on +3, so all of his units are hitting really hard on impact. He's only got +1 armor.
Yeah. Maybe that supply is starting to tell the tale, and MaNa has such dependable income with all of these bases now mining. This was not torn down enough. Impact, he's been on the same bases for so long. That was an all-in that did not work.
Mother of God. And he's got upgrades across the board, but GG. 3-1 for MaNa. He takes the series and makes things awkward for us. So, to be clear, let's make this very public knowledge before going forward. I'm going to do everything in my power to work with MaNa and try and find a solution that works, even if it means we have to cast replays in the semifinals. But there is 0% chance we can have the grand finals be replays. So, we'll see what the schedule looks like. Maybe it's something where like he plays heroes in the morning, so we schedule his matches in the evening. I don't know. We'll dance with it as things go accordingly. But one way or the other, sick congratulations to MaNa. Because let's not forget, he started off down 1 in the series and then brought it back 3-1 here at the end.
Cool stuff.
Thank you very much to Myzix for the 10-month resub. Hello Zergling for 38. Braylon 26 for 14. I think I met Braylon at BlizzCon, if that's the same person that I'm thinking of. But guys, we're at 621 total follows from the stream today. We kept 7,700 people for that front page. And we are less than 600 people away from 100K. So do me a favor before we go to the break. Hit the follow button if you haven't. That way we get closer to our goal. You don't miss out on any good StarCraft. And we get set up for this final best of 5. Hero versus Denver. Now, I gotta put my cards on the table for this one, guys, because some of you might not care for this, and I don't want to swindle you into it. But this best of 5 has been done through replays. Now, to be perfectly clear, I don't know how these games went. I don't know what this looks like. I've been given the replays in a spoiler-free format. So, as far as I'm concerned, all 5 of these games could go to Game 5. It might be a 3-0. I have no clue, honestly. We are watching these for the first time together here on the stream. The reason these are done through replays is because neither player could be here at this time to play. So this was done like literally last night at like 2 a.m. or so. I don't remember the time, but these are still pretty darn fresh. So commercial break, word from our sponsors. When we get back, we'll get into this last best of 5. And then Jesse from Ting, if he's still at the office, is going to have to come on stream. Well, he should still be at the office and do a backflip for us because that was the stretch goal reward. And I want him to have like a circle of employees around him, like kind of just like ooh, 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 like and fingers crossed he doesn't hurt himself. But anyways, word from the sponsors. See you guys in a bit. Thanks for watching. Be back in about 5 minutes or so.
There are a few options if you're looking for a phone to use with Ting.